Welcome to another episode of A Mission Focused Life. I'm Tanner Payton, pastor of Word of Life Church in Rock Island, Illinois. With me is the executive director of Another Child Foundation, Tim Olafson. What's up, Tim?
Hey, not too much. Good to be with you again.
I know, it's raining outside today, but you know what? We must need it.
Yeah, we must, and at least we're not getting the storms. I know we talked about storms a couple weeks ago, how much we enjoy them, but I haven't heard a lot of thunder and lightning with this rain. It's just been a nice, dreary.
Yeah, I'm hoping for some thunder and lightning. Otherwise, it's just not worth it to me.
That's true.
Although I did get some grass seed out, so hoping maybe instead of clover, I will have grass in my yard. It'll be awesome.
As long as it didn't get washed away.
Yeah, that's true. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about the value of short-term mission trips. I know that people sometimes have very positive ideas about short-term mission trips, what they are able to accomplish long-term. But then some people also share the concerns that they have about those. And obviously, Another Child Foundation and the Mission Network are very concerned with short-term missions and how not only they affect the individuals going on those trips, but also the impact that they have on the individuals being ministered to. So, Tim, what has been your experience as far as how a short-term mission helps?
Well, I think short-term missions are, the way we used to look at missions in general is somebody would give up 6 months or even a year or 2 years of their lives and they would go somewhere, or maybe even a longer period of time, a good portion of their life, and they go and they serve in these mission fields as a long-term missionary. But that isn't real conducive to a lot of people's lives, their schedules. So I believe the short-term mission trips, the 7 days to 14-day trips, can be very advantageful for people who maybe want to serve but still have professions, jobs that they need to go to. So I like the idea of short-term mission trips as long as you fall within certain parameters of what a mission trip's purpose is.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I was blessed with an opportunity to work for a ministry in Los Angeles, California called the Oasis of Hollywood. And basically what we did was we provided short-term missions opportunities for teams from all over the United States. They would come out to Hollywood, we'd pick them up from the airport on a Sunday, then they would stay with us all week long, and then the next Sunday they would get a flight out of town. But while they were there, we were training them every single morning on evangelism, how to do personal evangelism, how to share your testimony, how to engage with people about the gospel. And a lot of times, well, almost all the times, it was with complete strangers on the street. And so what that did for us is in the mornings we had this mission prep, but then in the afternoons and evenings we would actually go out to all these different locations. We would go to Skid Row, we would go to Santa Monica, we'd go to Hollywood Boulevard, we'd go to Beverly Hills, we'd go to every type of location you can imagine and give people an opportunity to practice what they were learning. But what we found was that after a week, these individuals had grown accustomed to sharing their faith and to doing this thing, and then we would give them a challenge on Saturday night. Now you're going home, now it's time to put into practice at home what you've learned doing here.
Yeah. So typically, and that's a good way to do missions, what Another Child Foundation has done is usually we're going overseas internationally and serving children either through a VBS, delivering a humanitarian aid, different options like that. So what we're trying to do there is trying to develop partnerships with people who are already doing ministry in these locations. A lot of people think that in mission trips you're bringing God to people. And in most cases, God is already there. God is already working in all cases. But He's already there working. So it's what can we do to plug in to an ongoing ministry that adds value. Maybe it's a different perspective on the gospel. So that's just one way in which we can do it when we serve. But also it's a lot of it about mission trips is about helping the people who go on the mission trip so they can take what they learn on these trips and bring it back into their communities.
Absolutely. You know, one of the biggest benefits that I do see with the short term is like you said, it's something that anybody can potentially do. Now, understandably, sometimes there's some cost prohibitions. You know, if some people can't afford a couple $1,000s to go overseas, but that's one of the things that I do love about the Mission Network, that you guys are providing some opportunities that are in the United States for people to be able to go do something that don't cost as much money and gives people an opportunity to be able to have that experience.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, so when you're looking at everybody as a missionary, which we're all called to do that, in the Great Commission, it doesn't say, if you are called to serve, you are to go therefore. He calls all of us to go and serve other people. So where does that mean? Well, it means to the ends of the earth. It could mean in your backyard. It can mean to far reaches of the world. So I think the idea of what the Mission Network is trying to do is to create a diversity of opportunities so that everybody can find a place to serve. And so there's not cost restrictions. There's not restrictions on location and some other obstacles that people typically raise up when they feel called to go. It's usually, well, I think it's the devil one or the evil one tries to come up and tell you reasons why you can't do that.
Sure.
You're not called to do that. You can't afford to do that. You can't get the time off. So whether it's time, location, cost, those are all obstacles that the Mission Network and any good organization is trying to overcome to help everybody go out and serve.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I find the most beneficial of getting away on a short-term mission trip is simply that you're not in your own neck of the woods. Mm-hmm. You're getting out of the common everyday life. You know, there's a reason why we typically want to go away on a vacation. There's a reason why whenever we have a retreat, we don't stay where we work or where we do ministry. We go to another location. And it's the same thing that whenever you do a short-term mission trip, like Tim just said, we're supposed to be living on mission every day, 24 hours a day with our friends, family, coworkers, and neighbors right here in our own backyard. But a short-term mission trip gets you out of your comfort zone, but it also gets you out of the place that you're familiar. And sometimes familiarity will breed apathy. It'll also breed complacency. And so if we can get out of the place that we're used to and we can get somewhere new, sometimes it brings down some walls around us and we let down our guard a little bit. It allows us to have a little bit more boldness because we think to ourselves, I'm never going to see these people again. Mm-hmm. And so then we can have the freedom to experiment a little bit, to try things that maybe we wouldn't normally try. But then as we find success amongst strangers and amongst people that we aren't going to see again, it builds a little bit of confidence inside of us to go back home and to try these same things with people that we're going to see on a normal basis, and that provides opportunity for ongoing ministry in our own lives.
Yeah. And while you do want to get out of your comfort zone, the other thing it does, and I've seen this numerous times in our trips, is you depend on God a lot more. Yeah. When you lose control, when you give up power to other people to help you eat the right foods, speak the right language, and learn how to communicate and stuff, then you start depending on God. Because I've had a number of people ask me, how are we going to show the love of God to people when we don't speak their language, we don't understand their culture? That's when you depend on God to help you through those times. So you're not depending on your own understanding. You're depending on His understanding. And just through prayer and things, you can do some amazing things when you depend on God.
Absolutely. And so many times for us, we can get into a spiritual rut. Ruts happen very, very quickly sometimes. And if you've ever been stuck in the mud, you know that the more you push on the gas, the deeper the rut gets, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think as Christians, we want to just keep pushing on the gas, but we don't realize that we're just digging in deeper and deeper into the ruts in our own lives. So another thing that a short-term mission trip will do is it helps you get out of the rut. Mm-hmm. It helps you get to somewhere new, somewhere different. And you're able to see different perspectives. You're able to experience things that you haven't before. And maybe it opens up an area of your heart or your mind that God has been wanting to show you that you haven't been able to see because your perspective has been limited by the things directly in front of you. Yeah.
I always tell people, and you've probably heard me say this before if you have listened to me speak at any length, is mission trips are an opportunity. It's like going to an eye exam. Mm-hmm. You're going to see the world totally different after a mission trip than when you do before. God is going to open your eyes. I say you're going to go like an eye exam. You're going to see the world as Jesus sees the world. You're going to put on the lens of Jesus and how He sees the world. And a good mission trip, a mission trip that's done correctly, will give you that exact opportunity to be able to see the world differently, gain a new perspective. So as you serve, you can use those new learnings to the people you're serving, but also as you come home. And I keep repeating that because it's mission trips is just about as much as when you come home as when you're serving, because it's a growth process. It's a catalyst to what you're going to apply to your life later, not just about serving. And of course, we want to go and serve well, and love on people that we're called to serve. But the growth is when you come back and learn how to serve better.
Absolutely.
In the community.
Yeah. So I have a question for our audience right now, and then I have another question for you. And my question for the audience is, if you could go on a 7 to 10 day short-term mission trip anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? Tim, let me ask you that question. I mean, obviously you love Romania, you've been to some places, but what is a place that you've never been before that you say, man, if I could go for 7 to 10 days, that would just be the dream?
Hawaii?
Yeah, okay. All right. Hey, they need Jesus too.
They do. I'm not sure if Hawaii is the destination a lot of people think of as mission trips. That's the selfish part of myself. But seriously, I think Africa, for a long time, when I thought of Africa, I thought of poverty, physical poverty, because a lot of places you'll go, you'll see spiritual poverty, and that's important to overcome too. But when I think of Africa and you think of Ethiopia and some countries like that, you're thinking of children living in garbage dumps and stuff like that. And for years, I didn't think my heart was able to comprehend that and to be able to, I think I would be so saddened by it that I'm not sure if I could serve well enough. But through the growth I've had through doing other missions, I think that would be a good challenge for me to do, and to go how to serve people who live in poverty that is unimaginable compared to other places I've went and served. So maybe Africa.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, I've got a good friend from college. He and his wife are actually home on furlough right now. They just had their third baby, and they serve in the Himalayas. And this guy has been all over the world. You know that movie, The End of the Spear?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's actually been to that village.
Oh, really?
Yeah, knows the people that are involved in that movie. Such a cool guy. He told me stories about backpacking in Peru, going into villages up in the mountains that nobody had ever seen before. And man, when he talked about that, something sparked in my heart. I just think it would be so cool to be able to go up into the Peruvian, the Inca mountains, and go to some of those villages that have never seen a person from what we would consider civilization. They've never seen an outsider before, and be able to present the gospel to people that have never had any opportunity to have contact with anything like that. To me, that would just be just an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, I think there's just so many opportunities out there, and the network is looking for these diversity, these opportunities, and it's endless. I mean, once I got comfortable with getting out of that comfort zone, and I'm willing to go just about anywhere now. So I'm always just looking for those opportunities, even somewhere in the inner cities and from our own major cities here in the U.S. would be a challenge for me.
Well, we've talked about possibly getting a trip together to go to Los Angeles, which would be cool. Yeah. I'd love to go back there with the team. Yeah,
and that would be good, but that would be a challenge. It might not be the first place I would think of personally, but if that's what God is calling me, and I find He's calling me more and more to different places all the time. It's just picking out the right ones. I think it's what He's doing. It's not so much telling me I need to go here, but it's opening up my heart to see everybody, a wide diversity of people who need our help. And maybe that's my job as the director of the Mission Network, ACF Mission Network, is to find these opportunities, because there's people like me who want to go to those places, but just don't have the right system in place to be able to allow them to do that.
Well, for our last few minutes today, let's talk about, we've been talking about some of the benefits for us going on the trips, but let's actually focus in on the benefits for the people that are receiving the short-term missionaries into their communities and having them touch their lives. So you go into a place for 7 to 10 days, you love on folks, you bring stuff, you bring good news, you have a good time, and then you go home. What is the lasting impact or benefit, or how does it impact or benefit the people that are actually there?
I think the key to that is when you leave, when the mission team leaves, they don't see a team of U.S. Christians leaving. It's they saw the face of Jesus that visited them for a while. Not that He's going to leave them, but this was a group of people who were representing Jesus. So when I don't want them to be sad that Tim has left. I want them to be sad that this person that was representing Jesus is no longer here right now. I guess I don't know if that really makes sense to you or not, but I don't want them to see me. I want them to see a Christ-like figure presenting that to them. So if you can leave and have them be sad that hope and other things that come with the gospel are leaving instead of just this cool mission team that they brought over some cool VBS activities and stuff like that, I don't want them to see that leaving. I want them to see a connection,
Yeah.
a relationship that is just because one of the other things I always say on mission trip, you never say goodbye. It's always see you later.
Yeah.
Because whether it's physically see them here on earth again or in heaven, we will see them.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, one of the things that we discovered when we were taking teams weekly down to Skid Row in LA was consistency is everything. So if you go in a place and it's a one and done, I don't think that there is going to be very much lasting impact.
Right.
But if you consistently take teams in week after week, even if it's different people, what happens is the individuals that are there and they're seeing these folks come back and back and back and back, they start going, wow, look how many people care about us.
Yes.
Look how many people want to share the gospel of Jesus with us. And it does something different. If you're just there once or twice, then that message can get lost. But if you have an ongoing connection, whether it be with boots on the ground, a ministry that's actually there, whether it be a church or a parachurch organization, or, just a group coming in every single week with different people and different supplies, that speaks over time. And that really impacts just through the faithfulness.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that statement because now as people go with us and Another Child Foundation over to Romania and Guatemala and other countries, they see the rest of the team. They might see me every time as I lead or some of our other trip leaders, but the rest of the people are accepted just as if they had been there 100 times before. And so that's always comforting to the people going because they're already getting loved on because these children, especially the children that we're serving, they want the love and attention. And if they know that Tim is going to bring a group of people over that are going to love on them and care for them, then they're already accepting these people even though they've never met them before. For our first few mission trips, I remember there was a 2-day awkwardness of who are these people, what's their intent. So if you can avoid those types of that awkwardness in the first day or two, that's good. And that comes from those long-term relationships with organizations that mission teams are partnering with.
All right, so last question. I know that God really grabbed a hold of your heart when you were over in Romania serving 10 years ago. So what was the first moment where that spiritual light bulb went off for you and you were like, wow, this is something I want to do?
Well, there's 2 stories. Can I tell 2 short stories?
I guess. I think you guys are okay with that. Sure. Okay.
2 short stories. One is on my first initial trip over there. We had a chance to share what the trip meant to us. And this is before I even was thinking about, could this be something I do on a regular basis? And everybody got up and they shared these powerful testimonies of what they experienced. And I sat there, not empty, but I didn't have the same experience they did. And I realized it was compassion. I didn't have the same compassion other people had for these people because I kind of almost proudly felt good about what we did because we helped some kids. Mm-hmm. But what the other people saw was this sadness, this hopelessness that these children had, and they saw the ongoing problems that I didn't see. So I went back to my room and I prayed, for compassion. And God spoke to me in a very powerful way that night and told me basically that, this is what I have for you if you obey what I got going. This is where I want you to be. So that was one story. And then the realization that what we were doing was making a difference was the first year I went over, I met a girl by the name of Noemi and made a good connection with her at camp. And we left the camp, and a year later we were coming back. And it was that hour right before the bus came, the anticipation of, was she going to remember me? That was what, is she going to remember me? And I just realized how selfish that was because she was on the bus wondering if I was going to remember her. And her being remembered by me was much more important because these are orphans who desperately need it. So the kids started getting off the bus and I was starting to make eye contact looking for this girl. And as soon as we saw each other, we connected and we ran over and we gave each other hugs. And it was just, I realized then that there was a connection that was actually made, and it was a very powerful moment for me to realize that these relationships and these short-term mission trips do make a difference in people's lives. And it was just a tremendously powerful moment to realize that, okay, this is what God wants. This is making each little difference to a child.
Yeah.
So.
Well, 19 years ago, I was an intern in Hollywood at the Oasis, and my last week there for the summer, I remember I just kind of went off by myself because I knew that my time there was limited, and I went to one of the basketball courts down in Skid Row, and there was this man sitting on a bench. His name was Samuel, and I sat down and talked with him. We talked together and we prayed together for about 2 hours. He shared a story with me. He'd been a successful truck driver, had a nice middle income lifestyle, wife, kids, and he got addicted to drugs. And he ended up, because of the drugs, lost his house, his wife left, kids left, and he was living literally in nothing in the middle of Skid Row, just completely addicted to drugs. And so we prayed that God would give him strength to find help and that he would get his life back together. And I ended up giving him my home address because I thought, who knows? Yeah. About 7 months later, I get a letter, handwritten letter in the mail, and it was from Samuel, and it was from Arizona, a whole state over. Okay. And in this letter, it said that the next day he went to a shelter and was there, and then through that shelter got into a rehab, and after the rehab contacted his wife and children, and 7 months later he was back with his wife and his kids and working, and had been drug free for 7 months. And we talked for 2 hours on one day in the middle of Skid Row. Yeah. And that experience changed. Jesus changed everything. It did. So I'm convinced that short-term mission trips can definitely have an impact. Yeah.
I just want to say one thing to our audience right now. I can promise you there is someone out there in this world today that needs your individual touch.
That's right.
You can go and you can meet somebody and you can have that same exact story. It's somebody who made a difference in their life just by being willing to obey what God is calling you to do. And people need you, and people are counting, and Jesus, I guess, is counting on you to spread that gospel, to bring that hope to somebody out there in the world. Because if you feel called to go on a mission trip, He is going to put you in the right place at the right time with the right people. That is the way God works. I've seen it numerous times. So just want to encourage everyone out there that you are needed in the mission field.
That's right. Well, amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, we hope that you will like and share this so that others can see it. And join us next Thursday for A Mission Focused Life.